Hello and welcome. I am Kathy Bradley with Kathy Bradley and the Angels, and welcome to the August 2023 Messages from the Heavenly Realm. So thank yourself for being here. Connecting with your breath brings you to the present I am moment. And this month I'm choosing to work with my oracle cards that I created from the angelic messages. And I'm going to show you the pictures. And the first one is about compassion. So let me show that to you. Compassion. Compassion stems from being in a kind space. If we can lift ourselves up in looking at things from a compassionate place, that elevates us from a place of being judgmental, in believing I'm right, you're wrong, polarized point of view. When we're in that compassion, we see that every person is doing the best that they can in that moment. There is no judgment. And actually, we're divine beings. We're specks of the Creator, the divine. God never judges us, always accepts us exactly as we are. So knowing that we come from this, if we can move back into that higher perspective, that higher vantage point, and seeing things through the heart, through the compassion. When we do this, we're moving out of the polarization, the judgments, the right, I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, excuse me. And we allow each person to see their world through their own perspective. And actually, this is really beautiful. What this brings us to is the place of oneness. What I mean by that is we're each individuations of the greater source, of God. And yet we each have these unique perspectives on how we see things, how we view things, how we experience things. You could be in a family and you all see the same movie, and if there are 5 of you there, you're going to walk out with 5 different perspectives. Now, when you view this from that place of oneness, it's that place of compassion. You see God experiencing itself through each individuation. It's kind of like a diamond, and there are different facets of the diamond, right? So each facet has this beautiful, spectacular view on how it experiences itself, how it embodies itself. And when we're in that place of oneness, rather than the division, you see how that shifts out of the judgments, out of the blame game, out of the expectations that I want them to see it the way I do. You see, this polarization no longer works. So if it's coming up in your life, which it is for most of us, it's there to show you. It's like you have this beautiful painting that you've created, and the painting is based on where you put your attention. And so if you're seeing judgment, that's what you're going to see shown back to you. It's kind of like a mirror. So if you were to paint a painting, it'd be based on your experience, wouldn't it? And so very often we can look out there, right? And if we're in that place of judgments, that's when we get into the polarization. Now, if we can see the oneness and the beauty of each individuation, seeing things, experience things in their own right, it creates an allowing. It creates an acceptance. There's no expectations, no attachments, no judgments. So when you do this, you move into the flow. And the next message that I want to share is balance. Let me show this picture to you. Balance. Balance is when we're balanced with our masculine and feminine energy, the yin and the yang. We each have it. Whether we're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. So the masculine would be the exhalation in your breath. The feminine would be the inhalation. When you're off balance, typically you've been prompted by certain situations, certain experiences that are going on in your life that have moved you out of kilt. So when you're masterful, which is what we're all being asked to do at this moment in time, become masterful. So how do we do that? With the breath. That is the key, that balance, the inhalation, the exhalation. You can't just receive without giving. You can't give without the receiving. It's this beautiful balance. So when we can go back to the breath, we go into the balance of life. So take those 3 nice, deep, gentle breaths. It connects you with your I am presence. And when you do this moment by moment, you become aware. This is where the mastery comes in. You become aware when you've been triggered. When someone says something or does something to you, and it triggers something with you. Perhaps you get angry, frustrated, anxious, fearful. These are all tips for you. It's like, oh, a light bulb moment. Okay, I get to see that I've moved out of my balance. I've allowed someone to trigger me. And the reason why it's coming up, it's showing you your anomalies, where you're not in balance, where you're not in wholeness, where there's a division, a separation. So believe it or not, it's a gift. It's not a fun gift because no one really wants to see that, right? They want to shun it away and not want to know about what we need to work on. This is where our self-mastery, why we're here, to be the light. So when you see you're triggered, give yourself that time. If not in that exact moment, register it and say, oh, I see I've been triggered. So then when you do have time that day or that evening, if you could do some work. Typically when we are triggered and we have those anomalies where we go into fear, lack, misunderstanding, shame, guilt, typically if we do the work, we find it started somewhere along the line in our life, very often when we were young. Maybe you didn't feel like you were being heard. So now this is something that's coming up again in your lifetime now. You're not feeling heard again. Well, if you can stop and hear yourself, be sovereign. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or does. Because when we're looking at it from that place of unity consciousness, there's no division. You give yourself what you need. You don't need to look outside yourself for the love, for the appreciation, for the admiration. It's all in here. Now the third message that they wanted to share, so we went with compassion, starting with a compassionate heart and balance, noticing when you move out of your balance. And the third thing that they're talking about is peace. And again, that's by looking that introspection. Oh, I want to show you the card too for the peace. Peace. So peace is an inside job. But what's happening is we are distracted when we go into that anxiety or that tension or the anger. Oh my God, what else is going on? Whether we're watching the news or we hear about it, or someone's in bad health, that can trigger us. So if you can become aware of that and move into your self-mastery, your sovereignty, and you realize that you create the peace, you create the love, you create the light. What this does is this shifts your perspective from looking out there, looking to fill yourself so that you become peaceful, so that you feel loved, so that you feel accepted and appreciated. But those are really all illusions. It's never out there. So when we think that we need to receive things or experiences or relationships to fulfill us, let that be a light. Imagine yourself as this beautiful light post or a lighthouse, whatever resonates with you. And you are responsible for keeping your light on, nobody else. So if something happens and it dims your light, notice it in that moment. Become aware of it so that you can find out what your anomalies are, so that you can change those things. And it's an inside job. So all of the distractions, Netflix, or going out with people nonstop, never giving yourself that time for introspection or integration. And you know, it's interesting. People can give us a hard time for doing that. It's kind of like, well, where were you? What were you doing? And they see it as not being busy. What did you accomplish? Well, you know what? I was doing this work on myself, because all I have is responsibility for myself, nobody else. And it's work. It takes attention and intention. So when you place your attention on your intention, I am peaceful, I am balanced, I am compassionate. And you create your life based in this, then yes, you do take the time, you do take the attention to go within and to not get drawn in to the noise, the chaos, the drama. It's addictive. And actually, it's purposefully done. And the polarization, I'm right, you're wrong, black, white, right wing, left wing. If we can move into the place of neutrality and see it from the eagle's perch, then you're not drawn in. Then you're able to respond rather than react. So that's why it's so important to consistently and continually take a pulse of yourself on a daily basis. All we have is this now moment. It's an illusion of the past where you recreate the stories in your mind, or shifting into the future, which has not come yet. All you have is this present moment. So how do you choose to experience yourself? By being masterful, by realizing you are responsible for your energetic frequencies. It's like the radio station. If you want to listen to soft rock, you don't put on heavy metal, do you? Expecting to hear soft rock. But you're placing your attention, what do I want to hear? What do I want to experience? Well, we have this internal compass, this internal guide. It's your intuition. Pay attention to it. Fill yourself up with the light. It's very intense times. The light that's pouring in is of a very high frequency. So anything that is not filled with that light is coming up. It's coming up to be cleared and to be let go of. You don't need to go into it again. You don't need to get into a mind game with it. You become aware of it, and in that moment you can make a choice. Oh, wait a minute, I was going into anxiety. You know, they're talking about all the wars, what's going to happen with this, that, and the other thing. Wait a minute, I'm not going to go down that path. So in that moment, what could I do? I could go out for a walk out in nature. I could take a swim. I could go to the beach. I could listen to music or call my friend and just chat. There's so many things you can do for yourself. When you're by yourself, you don't have to be bored. You have all these partners, all of the angels, all of the heavenly realm, your guides, spirits, the elemental kingdom. Here we are in the summer. Let them be with you and guide you. Listen. Take the opportunity to bring yourself into balance, to be at peace, and to always lovingly be compassionate. First and foremost to yourself, and then let that ripple out to all of those in the world. Beautiful. So thank you so very much. We love you. We look forward to seeing you, hearing from you. Blessings.